Imagine this. You and your friends/coworkers are hanging out in your favorite corner of your station house. All of a sudden, an alarm goes off. You sprint into action, grabbing your gear and getting an essential brief from your station commander. There is a fire, and you have to put it out, overcoming the unique hazards of this particular structure. The sprinklers have been sabotaged. Can you get them working? There are combustibles in the path of the fire. Can you move them in time, or should you focus on the people trapped on the third floor? Can you stop the fire in time before it spreads to the next building? These are the challenges that you, as the GM, need to develop if you want to run the campaign format that I like to call the Fire Brigade. The Fire Brigade is a campaign format that involves a high narrative effort from the GM, but narrower, more easily controlled improv and social activities. A central part of the Fire Brigade is the headquarters or hub from which the players are provided the basis for their arcs. The hub provides a consistent environment for most of the players' prep work like buying items, doing research, or downtime crafting. The hub also contains the campaign's principal and NPC cast, including everyone necessary to sustain all of the player amenities: the mission giver, the shopkeep, the librarian, the craftsman, and other characters appropriate to the setting. And this is one of the advantages of the Fire Brigade, the relatively small NPC cast size. You don't have to flesh out or improv an entire town or village of NPCs, just enough to sustain the downtime activities. The Fire Brigade lends itself well to a culture or institution with a clear formal leadership structure such as an armed force, a temple, or an occupational guild. Players don't have much say in the parameters that determine their success in the next arc, but are in charge of the process and ideas by which they face their challenges. A good example of a Fire Brigade style campaign are the earlier arcs of the Adventure Zone. The lead characters go off on their adventures, but inevitably return to their leader with reports of their success, and a shop at Fantasy Costco. Another example from the world of PC gaming is the DOS game Wing Commander. Wing Commander takes a starfighter sim and gives it the feel of a role-playing game by breathing a little life in between missions. The player can visit the barracks or the officer's bar, or earn medals based on their mission performance, and even attend the funeral of fallen pilots. But when the alarm goes off, it's time for the next mission brief and off into the emptiness of space to face danger once again. TIE Fighter uses some of those elements, but adds a hidden component to the campaign based on the player's success in secondary mission requirements. What do you need to prep a campaign in the Fire Brigade format? Off the bat, you need to plan your hub area, along with all the amenities to support player downtime activities. There might be a work area for crafting, a shop for gear or spell components, a library for research, a fishing pond for relaxing, player quarters or shared quarters, places to eat, and of course, the boss's office for their mission brief. And all of these locations are going to need a small population of NPCs to keep things going while the players are away. And perhaps there could be a few troublemakers with their own agenda to add to the player's upcoming mission. You also need the overall goal of this organization that the players work for. And you'll need some ideas for the end state of this series of missions that they do. The defeat of the Big Bad is a popular choice, but there are others as well. Unite multiple nations against a common foe, bring together the parts of a magical item that will bring about prosperity, or uncover a secret to the region's history that will resolve a long-standing conflict. And speaking of missions, you will need to have the parameters of your first arc ready to go in your first session, because if your players aren't taken with the activities in the hub, they're going to want to start their adventures as soon as possible. And this brings us to what you need to prep your first arc. Let's go back to the 5 questions from that introductory video. Where, what, why, who, and when, which I mistakenly called the 4 questions in that video. Where are the players going? What are the parameters for success? Why does this need to be done? Rather, the consequence for failure. Who is the potential opposition? Who are the potential allies? And when does time run out, or the failure conditions of the arc? Parameters should also include any devices that are deemed necessary by the mission giver, but might be beyond the player's means to make for themselves. Communication systems, magical seals, etc. Key items, as many video game RPGs would call them. The mission giver should also remark on secondary conditions that could contribute to the cause of their institution. The GM should also consider additional secondary conditions that aren't immediately clear to the players from the beginning of the arc. Player character motivations or alignment should be consulted when coming up with such hidden goals. This creates an opportunity for dilemmas and roleplay, moments where the player character's own values might conflict with the goals of the arc. For example, a destitute village gives the players information that help them reach a cache of treasure that will help finance future arcs. If the players were to accidentally lose a little of the gold to help rebuild the village, would their boss notice? They can't be sure, but where do their priorities lie? As the GM, you will need the core stat blocks for any NPCs, minions, monsters, or bosses that the players are likely to encounter. Look for ones that offer a unique angle compared to previous arcs. Pre-gen stats are a great shortcut for these NPCs, but if you have to improv a character or opponent, focus on the relative skill or power difference that you want in the encounter with your players, along with the angle or goal of this encounter and how it collides with the player's goal. Defeat the opponent is the least interesting goal of a combat encounter. Consider others, such as escape with an item or NPC, damage or theft of a resource, or a tug-of-war puzzle or trap that forces players and their opponents to prioritize solutions over strict combat. And always track the stats you assign to an improvised NPC. Players have a way of taking a liking to random, made-up characters. For geography, you need only enough to get the players to their destination and back again, with a small number of opportunities for branching. Do the players take the main road, which streamlines the timeline but risks encounters with enemies who might see through their disguises? Or do they take to the wilderness and brave the hidden dangers lurking within? For failure parameters, the most common one is time. Players have so many days for some specific reason. The magic item they need is going to be auctioned off on a certain date, for example. But other parameters can include secrecy, maintaining cover, avoiding direct bloodshed, or everyone's least favorite, keeping an NPC alive. Actually, that one works better on a tabletop than it does on the computer, especially when the NPC is kind of fun. Okay, the session is tomorrow. What do you need? You need a collection of plausible encounters or scenarios according to the duration of your sessions and player group size. I went over this in the intro video. Give that a look if you haven't already. But how do you decide what is plausible? This actually takes a little bit of time and experience to learn, and it helps if you've been with your player group for a little while. You know where their inclinations lean when it comes to solving problems, and you have some idea of what will take a lot of time and what they'll resolve quickly. Encounters should take into account the local environment, your pre-chosen NPCs, and the impact on your 5 arc questions. A traveling vendor asks for help fixing his wagon wheel. This costs your players time against their arc, but potentially rewards them with a friendly contact later on, or perhaps an item as a reward. The local adversary minions may have made a camp, but seem to have a creature captive in a cage. It would be easy to sneak around, but the creature might be valuable, but also very dangerous if set loose, or possibly another opponent intended for the players in a later fight. The players wait in a long line for a merchant's pass into the local keep, but happen to spot a group of kids sneaking out of an unseen tunnel. Should they trade in the appearance of legitimacy to save time? As the sessions pass in an arc, you may find your prep work more streamlined. The direction of the player's route through your arc becomes clearer, and it's easier to intuit appropriate encounters. If you find yourself at this point, it's a good idea to use this surplus of prep time to make updates to your hub. Choose items to add to the shops, consider other social activities, and plan how NPCs respond to the outcome of the current arc, especially the original quest giver. And you should start planning the outline of your next arc as well. That's the basics if you want to run a Fire Brigade style campaign. Let me know in the comments if you run such a game in the past, perhaps you had your own name for it. For our next format, we'll be going over a close sibling of the Fire Brigade, a style I like to call the menu. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and happy gaming!